Welcome to Pomegranate Radio with your host, Jonathan Cook.
Good evening, Pomegranate Nation. Jonathan here in the Pomegranate Radio booth, coming at you in full motion video. For those of you on YouTube. If you're driving to work, I certainly hope you're not watching YouTube. If you are, you're an idiot. Yes, from here on out, episodes will be released as videos, as well as the traditional audio-only podcast. That way, you can still enjoy the soothing sound of my voice pouring through your speakers on your daily commute, while also having the option to pour yourself a glass of fine pink lemonade, curl up next to someone you love, and bask in the glory that is my intellectual overanalysis. Today, I'm not going to be discussing any particular movie or TV show in depth. Rather, I'm going to talk about something that should not be a thing, and yet something that seems to be growing day by day. I'm talking about whitewashing. Now, if you're living anywhere other than the US or Europe, you probably just rolled your eyes, and that's because you are infinitely more reasonable than we are. Whitewashing, for my white southern brethren, is the casting of white actors to portray non-whites. No, not minorities. Globally speaking, whites are a minority. We poor oppressed white people! Oh, God, no! Recently, this photograph of Scarlett Johannson from the upcoming Ghost in the Shell live-action adaptation caused a bit of a stir because Scarlett is portraying Major Motoko Kusanagi, who is, obviously, Japanese in the original manga. Fans, along with a whole slew of people who really shouldn't care, are upset and see this as yet another instance of whitewashing, much like Tilda Swinton in the upcoming Doctor Strange, Max Minghella in The Social Network, and, the classic example, Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Yeah, that one's offensive. Interestingly enough, the Japanese reaction to the photo has been fairly indifferent. If there's been any kind of response, it's been limited to stupid Americans? They actually care about this? Well, I wasn't gonna go see it anyway. In fact, a representative of Kodansha, the original manga's publisher, recently said, quote, "We never imagined it would be a Japanese actress in the first place. This is a chance for a Japanese property to be seen around the world." He also expressed how satisfied he was with the way the material is being handled. All this is to say, why is this a thing? At a certain point, we really do have to admit that we're being ridiculous. If this was blackface or brownface, I could understand the outrage to an extent. But this is nothing. This is profoundly irrelevant. Show me the thoughtful minority individual who is upset by this for reasons having nothing to do with getting on TV, and I'll show you a canine blackjack dealer. The same people who are complaining about Hollywood's casting choices are the same people complaining that Darth Vader was an evil black man until he accepted his son, at which point he removed his blackness and became a good white man. Give me a break. Profoundly irrelevant. But this speaks to a very dangerous sense of victimization, a cheapening of what it means to be victimized. Americans live in a culture that believes everyone gets a trophy just for showing up, that everyone needs to be protected from getting their feelings hurt. However, if you're a rape victim, we're going to blame you for being raped. The majority of rape victims are reluctant, if not outright unwilling, to press charges against their attackers for fear of what they, as the victims, will be subjected to by both the justice system and the public. That is criminal. That is a criminal failure in our culture. And yet, people really think whitewashing is a major issue. This is what we need to be talking about. Or consider the number of shootings in America. There were 372 mass shootings in this country in 2015. There were 64 school shootings. Between 1968 and 2015, the number of gun-related deaths exceeded that of all wars America has ever fought. And yet, people really think whitewashing is a major issue. This is what we need to be talking about. Recently, even Hollywood got into the act. Because a number of wildly overpaid actors decided it was a thing, hashtag #OscarsSoWhite was almost the only thing anyone talked about. The films themselves were almost completely forgotten, except in terms of white privilege. Should Spotlight have won Best Picture? No! It's probably the most forgettable Best Picture winner since Shakespeare in Love. It was certainly not more than the sum of its parts, but what did anyone expect? It's an easily digestible issue film. I think Straight Outta Compton was a better film overall, but it's significantly smaller in scope. And Creed? Well, Creed already won, back in 1976. We can't award prizes for the same film twice. Here's my question though. Who exactly is negatively affected by this? Who is actually being harmed by Hollywood's whitewashing? No one! No one is actually harmed by this. And before you start sharpening your comments and telling me, and I'm white male and therefore cannot possibly understand, let me just say that I do get the argument. People think it sends the wrong message when minorities are not depicted in entertainment, that audiences are devaluing different races when those races aren't treated equally, whatever the hell that means. But there's no real evidence that audiences actually care that much. If people were truly offended by all this whitewashing, they'd stop going to those movies. They'd stop giving money to the studios. They aren't stopping. You know what stops people from going to a movie? When that movie is bad. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Epic Suckage, saw a 68% drop in ticket sales from week 1 to week 2. That's all people really care about, whether or not a movie is any good. There's a reason why Tyler Perry is not on Hollywood's A-list. And it ain't because he's black. All you need to do is compare any of his films with Spike Lee's She-Ra. There's a big difference. America does have a race problem, but Hollywood is not the problem. Whitewashing is not the problem. Consider how we intentionally gloss over our own history. Every schoolchild is taught that Lincoln freed the slaves. Fact. But they're also taught that he did it because slavery is wrong. That's not why he did it. He didn't think the black man and the white man were equal. He did it to bring the infrastructure of the South to a halt and to bolster support for the North, which was in a strategically weaker position than the South. It was a military decision. The Civil War was a war over economics and real estate. Slavery was tangential at best. But we choose to take a rosy view of things. We may have been wrong initially, but we fixed things. Except we really didn't. It was almost another 100 years after that before things really started to improve. And even today, race relations remain terrible. Only with the added benefit of everyone being so damn sensitive that Hollywood cannot cast an actress it feels would be profitable without the millennials squawking that Hollywood is bad. So, in deference to the racial sensitivity of my audience, I turn now to an expert for her opinion. This is Jonathan for Pomegranate Radio. Thanks for listening. You've been beautiful. Have a good night.
Pomegranate.